In the last exercise, we created a rectangle class that inherited some of its features from a shape class. This time we're going to create a new class, circle class, which also inherits from the shape class. Let's start out by reviewing the shape class very quickly. So the shape class has two data members, x and y. Those represent x and y coordinates. We have a constructor which simply sets those coordinates. Then we have getter methods and setter methods, as well as a set method to set both x and y coordinates, and a move method so that a shape can move. And so that method could be inherited by any particular shape and be able to move it. So let's build the circle class next. Back to our DOS prompt, circle.java. Public class circle, and remember to inherit from shape, we write extends shape. So we already have the x and the y coordinates, so the only other thing we need is a method for the radius, which we will set now. Then we create the constructor, so its parameters are going to be a x core, y core, and then a r for the radius. We call the superclass constructor by typing super with x core and y core, and then we'll set the radius to r, and that's the constructor. Next thing we want to do are create some getters and setters, so we'll get the radius first. We need to make that public. Well, I'm having trouble with that. I did in the last lesson also. And then public void set radius, int r, radius equals r. And of course, if we had any data validation to do, we would do it at this point. And that brings up an interesting idea, and that is that if there is validation to do, we have to do it inside a method, or it makes more sense to do it inside a method. So in our constructor, we probably want to call the method that sets the radius, like so that we could have the data validation performed once in the method call, rather than have to do it both in the method call set radius and in the constructor. So that's always an efficiency to be able to call a set method from the constructor if there's any data validation there at all. So at that point, we've done everything we need to do just to demonstrate that we can inherit a circle from a shape. So let's save the class, and then let's compile it to make sure it compiles. And it compiles. So now we're going to write a test program, chapter 13, part 6.java, public class, chap 13, part 6, public static void main, string args, circle C1 equals new circle. We have to set a next coordinate, so we'll just say 50, 50, and the radius of 10. Let's space those out a little bit. Then let's write out the x coordinate for the circle. The y coordinate for the circle. And then finally, the radius of the circle. And again, this is all we can do since we don't have the necessary techniques available to us to actually draw on the screen. That's a whole course in itself, if not 2 courses. So we'll save this file, compile the test program, and then run it. So we see that our x coordinate is 50, our y coordinate is 50, and the radius is 10. So that wraps up our discussion of inheritance. And that brings us to 2 out of the 3 main features of object-oriented programming. We have data encapsulation, then we have inheritance, and now we're ready to discuss the 3rd feature, and that's called polymorphism, and we're going to bring that up in the next chapter.